Okay, we'll move to the last sector, farm equipment. This is a sector that has gone through a bit of a slowdown. If you look at the price of equipment, driven by a number of different things, pure inflation, but tariffs and steel and aluminum as well, that have had an impact on the pricing of equipment. Just the fact that, and we addressed this before in this event, is the tight profitability for grains and oilseed producers that are changing the incentives or the decisions that producers would normally make when it comes to upgrading equipment and so forth. So what does that look like in 2026 for the equipment market?
Yeah, I mean, good question. As you know, same factors that weighed on sales last year are still present, right? So last year, agricultural implement manufacturing sales fell. I think it was around 18%. So if you look at the last, the first 9 months of last year compared to the previous year, down 18%. So, and the two factors that weighed on sales last year, like you mentioned, right? Tighter farm profitability, high equipment prices. So that's going to continue. So that's why we think new equipment sales will remain soft in 2026. One thing that needs to be mentioned, though, that there's an apparent shift in how farmers approach equipment purchases, right? So you see farm operations now seem to be focusing more on cost efficiency. So how they do this, they either keep the equipment for longer or they explore options in the used market. So that's largely why we're a bit more optimistic about sales of used equipment this year. One particularly bright spot in the used equipment market is the rising demand for forage and haying equipment. And I've got a chart that shows this increase. So user baler sales, for example, used baler sales, so they were up over 37%, right? So 37% increase last year. And forage harvester sales have remained more or less steady. So those basically suggest there were upgrades in livestock operations, right? Particularly in Eastern Canada. So those folks were making, like decent margins, and they were able to purchase the equipment. So for us, like overall, even though you're seeing overall, used equipment sales rise, we think its overall growth is going to remain modest. So coming back to sales of new equipment, so it's true that I said, we're not particularly optimistic, but producers, if they feel that good times will continue, will come back or will continue in some cases, like livestock, for example, and they see that profitability is something that will be there, so they could upgrade, right, their farm equipment, because don't forget, there's been years of delay, right, in terms of purchases of those farm equipment. So now if profitability comes back, then you could have investment again. Improve trade conditions, right? So that could also restore confidence and provide farm operations with greater certainty, right? So that would encourage more investment in equipment. So while we're not particularly optimistic, right, that's not to say there won't be opportunities, JP, that for manufacturers who can capitalize upon those opportunities.
Okay, so bright spot, that's good news. But then, the outlook remains under a lot of different uncertainties with regards to trade, with regards to tariffs, and with regards as well to the health of those operations that are buying equipment. So